All right, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the CashFlow Tribe REI Uncensored Challenge. So we had an amazing first day. Thank you for those that submitted homework to us about creating what your why is, writing it down and sharing it with myself and members of the CashFlow Tribe team. And based on what we saw, we have selected a winner. And I'm not going to disclose the person's name because I think, why sometimes can be private. That individual will be receiving a $100 gift card from Amazon from Cashflow Tribe. And I do want to read it out to you. There's a few things in here that did resonate with me personally as well. And I think the biggest thing that I saw is this person obviously wants to give back, not only to their immediate family, but to a broader audience by some of the things that they want to kind of do. So it is a little bit lengthy, but I do think there's value in reading the whole thing to you guys. So it says, thank you for the opportunity and allowing us to express ourselves and reflect on why we've started in our real estate investing journey, or why we're thinking about starting. I think this is an important exercise, not only today, but every day, to remind ourselves why we're doing what we're doing and feeling what we are feeling, so that we stay on track even when the wheels leave the rails. Again, very important to talk about. So my why for having started investing in real estate last year was to attain freedom and live life on my terms and schedule. It's no surprise that my need for freedom arrived during this time. Currently work for a large company, and it was always my intention to move up the ranks. These last couple of years have completely overturned those plans, and I'm now in a new path. My why is to be able to invest full time so that I may free up time to take on other ventures. My why will help me write and finish my novel. My why will help me start my podcast to speak with people who have done amazing things. My why will allow more family time with my wife and 3 kids. My why will allow me to one day attain enough skills, knowledge, and success to help others just like me attain their whys. My why is so that I can live the life I want to live and teach my kids to do the same. So one of the reasons why that resonated with me, because they want to give back. It's not just about themselves, although they talked about themselves, their family, their kids, but they want to give back by doing podcasts, by writing a novel, and also sharing what they've learned, sharing their journey with other people. So that person will receive an email from a member of our team sometime this afternoon with their $100 gift card. So congratulations, definitely well deserved. And again, if you submitted your why and you weren't selected as the winner, I read through all of them, as did other members of the Cashflow Tribe team, and they're great. And the biggest piece of advice I want to share with you is to make sure that you keep your why in front of you at all times. Keep it in front of you when you have good days. Keep it in front of you when you have bad days. But just make sure that you are aware of what you are trying to accomplish, the reason why you get up every morning, and whether you are, going to work full time, whether you're starting off as a new real estate investor, whether you're trying to expand your business and grow, keep it in front of you. So when you do have those tough days, those tough mornings, you can keep pushing through. The other piece of homework that we gave that we didn't actually ask you to submit to us, but do share on social media. I didn't see anybody other than myself do it, which was to write down the things that are preventing you from hitting your goals and to burn them. So I don't know if you guys follow Cashflow Tribe Canada on Instagram, but that is shared there, and where I did read out what is stopping me from, achieving my goals and becoming the person that I want to be. And I did burn them in my sink safely with water in the sink. It wasn't just dropping in the sink. So that is there. So if you haven't done that already, it is a powerful exercise. I actually had my significant other do it as well. And, she said that it really helped her, and to actually do it, to write them down, read them out loud, and then to actually burn them. And so they no longer can become or be used as excuses moving forward. So before we get started officially today with Hanna, our CEO, who will introduce just a moment, for anybody that knows me, I know a few of you people that have kind of joined us, and definitely our team, I am possibly a podcast addict, and I listen to probably a couple podcasts every day, especially when I'm at the gym in the morning when I'm waking up. So Today, I listened to one with Ed Milet, and there were a few things that I kind of took away this morning that I wanted to share with you. The first one was that everyone's recipe of success is different, but it's still a journey with similar elements for those that achieve success. And what I take away from that is when we look around us at the people that are in our lives that we know, that we hear about, that have achieved success, although their paths and journeys may have been different, they're very similar elements. They have certain characteristics. There are habits of the successful. There's habits of the wealthy. That if our goal is to kind of ascend to that level, we have to also adopt those behaviors, those habits. The next one I thought was huge, and Ed Milet talked about my will to win is not for sale. And he said sometimes, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but said sometimes we get to a point where we are comfortable, and at some point we stop pushing to become the person we were destined to be. And in order to overcome being comfortable, we can't sell our dreams or our family's dreams. A lot of people can be bought with enough failure, meaning there's a price tag from failure in life that is more than we are willing to spend for the success we deserve. So I know a lot of people listening here have had challenges, have had failures, have had struggles. And for those people that achieve success or want to achieve success, we have to be able to overcome the cost of failure. So if you wake up, every day for, 100 days, 90 days, whatever it is, 120 days, 365 days, a year, and you hit a wall where you struggle, where you're not having the success, how many days will it take for you to break through that wall? Imagine if you quit on day 365 and day 366, you get your next accepted offer in real estate. For those people not willing to take that next step, there's one guarantee, and that is the guarantee you won't succeed. So every day we have to wake up. Every day we have to push through. We have to fight, and we have to go after the success that we deserve. So with that, I want to introduce our speaker for today. I'll just bring him on camera here in 1 second. Chris, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we
Perfect.
can. So before I give you the stage, I just want to share with everybody listening a little bit about yourself. So Chris has spent almost 20 years of experience building teams, businesses, and various income streams. So he's been a speaker, a virtual coach, a consultant, podcast host, featured contributor, and council mentor with CashFlow Tribe. And his specialty is really helping solopreneurs and entrepreneurs who struggle with leading, hiring, productivity, and helping them become more confident, gain time back, and achieve stronger results. He's been recognized as a top 50 thought leader in mover and shaker and customer experience. And whether it's on his podcast, which is called The Chris Hanna Show, part of his courses, or in his Achieve More Planner, Chris focuses on helping people increase their impact, productivity, and performance. Chris also leads his own company called Hire For Me, which helps small business owners find the next critical hire they need. And as I mentioned a couple times, he is the CEO of CashFlow Tribe. So Chris, I will let you take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Kurt. I want to touch on one thing that Kurt said there that I think is pretty remarkable. When you think about the struggles that people go through and overcoming adversity, it dawned on me last night after watching day one of this, that we have Kurt and Keith and TJ. They all have one thing in common who spoke yesterday. They've all, obviously they're real estate investors, but what's different about them and what's also unique is that they've all gone through a job loss. And I have too. I think it's remarkable with so many people who are, business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. They've gone through this shared experience of how to overcome this adversity that really can plague them and that can maybe put them into a dark space, but they've overcome and they've taken it to the next level. It is so amazing when you think about it, just overcoming the challenges and obstacles that can come from your way. And a lot of it can come from job loss, which is an interesting kind of segue into what I'm talking about today. Because I'm talking about the importance of, why building additional income streams matters more now than ever. Because if you look at it, these are what I would classify as uncertain times. There are probably a lot of people who are worried about the future. You might be worried that you have no control in your career. You're worried that you could lose your job, or you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from, or that if you lost your job, how are you going to pay for your rent, your mortgage, pay your bills? These are uncertain times. And as a society, we've really gone through this period where there was a lot of talk about the Great Resignation. And then more and more now, it's about this great reset that's happening. Some of what you see here on the screen, I talk about some of that great reset and some articles that have recently just came out in the last couple of weeks. Like a recent survey featured on places like Forbes and CNBC says that over 50% of companies are expecting or planning layoffs soon. With that instability can bring opportunity for some. But if you're relying on just one sole source of income, and what happens if something goes bad and becomes challenging and you lose that source of income for some reason? You could be in a tough spot. So I'm really trying to advocate today for the importance of trying to diversify your income, have multiple sources of income. Because if you just rely on that one sole source, you could find yourself in trouble, whether it's personally, financially, professionally. But like a lot of people, as they start to think about multiple income streams, they start to worry that, oh, is it too much work, or am I going to get burnt out doing it? Well, there's ways that you can do it so you're not burnt out. So during this session today, I'm going to take you through some of the ways that I've found throughout my career that I've been able to build multiple sources of income and what's worked for me. And I'll have some questions and some tips to help you throughout this process. But if you look at the last few years, a lot of people have lost their jobs. COVID-19 negatively impacted a lot of people. A lot of people were laid off, furloughed, let go. They had to change careers. They had to start over. And it can be devastating. And for some people, it might feel like it takes a long time to rebuild. But trust me, you can do it. I know it takes a toll on people emotionally and mentally and physically, and definitely puts a strain on your relationship. I know this from personal experience. In 2011 is the first time I ever lost my job. And it was challenging for me to lose the only source of income that I ever had. And I vowed from that moment on that I would never let that repeat again. Because if I'm relying on just one sole source of income, I'm putting my hands in somebody else's fate. Like they're going to decide my fate for me. So you have to have multiple sources of income. Therefore, you're not going to be in this tough spot if something disappears or changes. So let's talk a little bit about how do you create multiple sources of income? Because you might be thinking like, hey, this seems hard. But like, if you're asking yourself this question, you have to remember that each and every single person here has got unique talents, unique gifts, unique strengths that could ultimately help them be more successful, create additional sources of income. Many people I don't think give themselves credit for the knowledge or the experience that they have, or even the willingness to try new things. It can be challenging to put yourself out there, to try something new, to create a little side hustle, or jump into real estate investing as either a side hustle or trying to turn it into its own business. But it's something that you might need to be able to do to have that lifestyle that you're looking for, to achieve the goals that you're wanting to go after. So I want you to understand just the importance of creating additional income streams for yourself. And more importantly than that, to ultimately take action. So I think first you got to unlock the mindset that you can live in this abundance and have multiple sources of income come in that are going to help set you up. I think you got to take a step back though first and look at yourself as a person. And I know Kurt touched on this briefly yesterday, and we'll touch on it again here because I think it's important to reiterate that if you don't know your why, your true motivations, your goals, what you're trying to work towards, it's pretty tough to succeed. The reality is I think a lot of people, they sleepwalk their way through life. They go through the motions. They live on autopilot. They do the same thing over and over again. They're wishing and they're hoping for something more, but they have a hard time finding it. The truth is we only have one life to live, so you might as well enjoy it. The best way to enjoy it is be able to pay for the life that you want. You can go on trips. You can have specific experiences. You can buy the things that you want. Spend time with the people that you want. The more that you can control your life, the more that you can have financial freedom. That's going to come actually from having multiple sources of income that are continuing to pay you month after month after month. But it's going to take some time and work to ultimately make that a reality. So I think that you have to start thinking about, again, what are some of your goals? And so I list some questions here that I think are important for you to think about. What are your long-term goals? Where do you see yourself in the future? And this is a really important question that I'm going to come back to in a couple slides here. What does your ideal life look like 1 year from now? See, I think it's important that you start to map out your ideal life as soon as possible, to sit down and actually get serious about it. It's not that complicated of a process, but like just to start there and think like, where do I want to be a year from now, personally, professionally, financially, and then ultimately use that as a way to motivate yourself to move in the direction that you want, to live the life that you want. It's so critical and so important. So I'll get into a little bit of my story here. There was a point in my career that I was incredibly miserable. I didn't honestly like the person who I'd become. I was unmotivated, I was uninspired, and I was honestly challenging to be around personally and professionally. I was probably not the best person to be around, and it was all on me. And I think it was a result of me just feeling like I was unfulfilled. I wanted something more, and what I wanted to be was just my authentic self. I wanted to be me, and I wanted to live life on my terms, but I felt like I couldn't do it. And I kept thinking about that word fulfillment. I remember like Kurt talks about podcasts. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. And there was a podcast that talked about fulfillment and it just stood out for me. Like that's the missing link. I need to figure out what brings me fulfillment. And I didn't know what it was. So I reflected and I started thinking quite a bit about that. So I read some books. And so you see some of the books that I read here: Entrepreneurial You by Dory Clark, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, Gary Vee's Crush It. Because I started realizing that I could probably gain time back by leveraging the experiences of others. So I read a lot of books. I read as much as I possibly could, but then I started watching courses. I started talking to people who were doing things that I thought was kind of interesting. And I started to realize that like I need to figure out what brings me fulfillment. And I thought back to when I was a kid. What did I enjoy the most? I enjoyed public speaking. I enjoyed the opportunity to present and to share. And I wanted to find a way. Could I do more of that? Throughout my career, I would attend all these different conferences and I'd say that hey, I could do that. I could be that person up on stage or I could lead that workshop, but I never put myself out there to do it. And eventually I decided after going through this exercise, I'm like, I need to find that fulfillment. And I know that if I did that, I'd be really happy and I'd be fulfilled. But how do I ultimately make that a reality? How do I turn that into an income stream? Is it even realistic that I could do it? It'd be pretty tough. And so then the more I read some of these books, the more I started to realize is like, it's a slow build. It takes time. You have to figure out a lot of different avenues to try and get yourself into being paid as a speaker. So what you see in the top right corner here is I have a whole bunch of sticky notes that are on a wall. One day then I decided I'm going to write out all these goals that I have for myself. And I'm going to decide what are the things that are going to bring me the fulfillment. They're going to bring me closer to being able to hopefully speak more often, to ultimately have the life that I ultimately want. And as I was writing these out, it dawned on me they were all different sources of income. They're a little harder to see on here, but it was things like freelance work. It was writing ebooks, leading some webinars, coaching, consulting. I was building presentations for people because I thought that was a skill set that I was good at. And ultimately, it just started to unlock all these different experiences that really started to help and shape me over these last number of years. And I think that the more that you continue to push yourself, the more I got real with myself, the more it started to bring more in my direction. So then we flash forward to these last 5 years where it's really become a reality for me, is where I've been able to figure out how can I create additional sources of income. How can I find that fulfillment? Well, I found it through a variety of different ways, and it's led to more financial freedom where I'm able to do what I want, when I want, where I want, how I want. And so I've been able to make money, whether it's been speaking, whether it's been podcasts. You see investments. I got a picture of a horse because I was invested in fractional horse ownership, whether it's virtual coaching and consulting. And like I said, I built PowerPoint decks and pitch decks for people. I was doing freelance work. I'm the CEO of CashFlow Tribe. I have leadership courses, my planner. I created a new business where I help solopreneurs and find that right fit and that next hire. And then my other passion in front of the Vegas sign there is poker. That's another one of my side hustles. There's multiple ways that you can make money. And there's multiple ways you can have sources of income that are going to come in and to feed your life. And so you're not relying on just one sole source if it doesn't work out. But you ultimately have to find out what's ultimately best for you. So it comes down to deciding, how do you determine, your goals? What does that look like? most people don't think about their goals as often as they need to. Sometimes I think because again they're living their life on autopilot. When I had that slide up where I had the sticky notes, I had those and I saw those every single day, and I worked hard every single day to make sure that I could take one of those sticky notes, crumple it up, and turn that goal into reality, turn that income stream into a reality. Didn't know if it was going to happen in the time period that I was looking for it, but like I was going to try to make it a reality. So I think this is where it comes back to that exercise of designing your ideal life. For that sticky note exercise, I did that within a 3-year period. I said by the end of 2021, I wanted to achieve everything that was on that wall. The last thing that I needed to achieve was become CEO of a company, which happened in August of 2021. I didn't think it was a reality, but it actually happened. So you got to put your goals out there into the universe, and you can actually, make them be manifested to actually become a reality. So I think for everyone who's on this, it's important to think 1 year out. Where do you see yourself a year from now? What do you want to see happen? What is your ideal life? What are the things that you want to have in your life? Where are you? Maybe you're not even living where you're living now. I know that was something that I had as a vision for myself too. I wanted to live somewhere else and I wanted to be able to travel more. Who are you surrounded by? What does your life really truly look like? Whatever it is that you see, I think it's important that you stop to reflect, to expand on it, and to write it down. Because when you write it down, you actually retain it. But then keep that front and center. Whether it's putting it on a wall, putting it on a mirror, have your goals outlined to ultimately try and find a way to make that a reality. So 365 days from now, you're not in the same place that you once were. Ultimately, it's like designing your ideal life and then working backwards to make that a reality. The same thing when you're talking about real estate investing. You're wanting to have, so many doors, or you want to have, so much income come in. Well, you're going to have to reverse engineer to make it actually happen. Now, maybe you want to go on a number of vacations over the next year, or you want to start saving for a down payment on a property, or there's something else that you want to do. Again, write those goals down. It's so critical and it's so important, but keep them front and center so that you can revisit them daily. That is so important that you need to do. I actually, at one point, I drew out a whole vision board for myself. I am not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, but it was helpful for me to have that visual too of the goals I wrote down and the vision board that I created to say, here's the things I want to do over the next 3 years, right? I wanted to be debt free. I wanted to move. But how am I going to make that happen? As I have to find ways to bring in multiple income, but I have to ultimately take action. And I think that's the thing that's missing for a lot of people still. And as we think about creating multiple income streams for yourself, it sometimes is just actually just doing the hard part and just moving forward, taking action. See, without action, I think that you're not going to generate the momentum that you ultimately need to be able to truly take off. Like a lot of people dream and a lot of people talk, but do they walk the talk? Do they actually get on at acting and doing what they said they were going to do? Some people live a life of regret. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, one of the most important motivators that's out there. I use that question of, what would I regret not doing as something I ask myself every single year when I'm planning the year ahead to kind of help push me in the direction of deciding, okay, where am I wanting to go after? What are the things that, like, if I was going to, be on my deathbed, what were the things that I would wish that I did, but I didn't do? I'm just going to make sure I'm going to knock those off the list and take care of the stuff that I ultimately want to have happen. And that's going to come from being able to have multiple income streams coming in that pays you to allow you to do what you want to do. But it's going to help you, assess your life goals and ultimately just get really clear with yourself and give you the momentum that you need to drive forward. Like with this illustration that you see here, I call this, about how do you generate momentum. This applies in your life and in your business. You got to leverage your potential, which means use all the resources that you've got available. Then you take higher levels of action. Ultimately, that's going to lead to better results. And that's going to create more confidence. And when you do, you have an impact. And then the cycle starts over again. The same thing needs to happen in what you're with your own life. Is you need to be able to continue to generate momentum, keep moving, not staying still. Because if you do that, you're never going to move forward with what you want. I think that right now, when we look at this economy that we're living in and the world just in general right now, I think never in history have people needed a fresher start than what they've needed now over the last couple of years. Now is the time to live life on your terms, to live life your way, to ultimately create multiple income streams, to find the freedom and the flexibility and the fulfillment that you ultimately want. So many people have been held back for far too long, and maybe they're not being their genuine, their authentic selves. If you can create additional income streams for yourself, you can really unlock your true potential. And ultimately, you can have some fun along the way too, because you actually do the things that you're best at and you have that financial freedom. So I'm going to give you some questions here to consider when you start to think about trying to create multiple sources of income for yourself, and to do it in a way that hopefully you don't burn out as you're going through this process, because you don't want to become the statistic. And by that, I mean the person who gives up, because I think far too many people give up. So some questions I think you need to ask yourself. And so I'll go through them all here that's going to really help you. So first, what do you know? When people start thinking about monetizing themselves, trying to build a personal brand, a side hustle, or creating some additional income, they instantly start thinking about what they know. I think it's a great question you need to ask yourself. What experience, what advice, what talent do you have? Whether you're creating a business, a side hustle, additional income streams, the truth is you need to find a way to stand out, because there's a lot of competition out there. What are some of the sources of income that you could have access to that can propel you forward, so you're not just relying on one source? There could be additional income streams like investing, whether that could include stocks, crypto, real estate investing, like a lot of people do here with CashFlow Tribe. Becoming a real estate investor and finding a way to invest in real estate, is important. And you have to find, though, the right tactics and strategies and the community and the partners to help you actually be successful. There are a lot of people in this community who have kissed goodbye to the 9-to-5 grind, because they've been able to cash flow and generate profits and ultimately, leave that 9-to-5 grind behind, but because they've been able to use real estate as one source of income that's now led to other sources. Look at TJ yesterday. TJ yesterday's used the power of real estate to create multiple businesses for himself and other opportunities for other people. It's really powerful if you can start to leverage what's out there. Now, some people then can take the money that they've learned and then they leverage that to turn into attending workshops or courses, or they can, start to build a personal brand or, some sort of related business. But I think that there's an opportunity just to figure out, again, what do you know? What's the thing that you're really strong in that can ultimately lead you to the path that you want? The second question, though, it's really important, is who do you know? Because it's one thing to ask, what do you know? But it's the who that's going to actually make a world of difference. The who matters more than anything else. Because creating additional income streams, it is not a solo game, right? It is something you don't have to do completely on your own. You can partner with other people. You can leverage other people's talents and strengths to help point you in the right direction. Maybe someone's had some painful lessons that they've learned the hard way that they can share with you, so you can actually be able to move quicker and faster in a certain area as you're building out more income for yourself. It's been said before, and it was said yesterday, I believe as well, is that your network is your net worth. This couldn't be more true. The more people that you can partner with within a community, the more it's going to help you ultimately level up, and the more that you're going to be able to succeed in life and in business. So what I would recommend for everybody, and I know a lot of people are not comfortable with this, but I think we just have to get over the comfort because you're going to grow more, is share your story. Share more of your background. Share some of your challenges. Share some of the things that are going on in your world. Ask for help, and people might be able to lend a hand. No one's going to help you if you don't put it out there. You have to push yourself outside of your comfort zone if you want to grow. That's going to help you. And when you share your goals, this is the beauty thing of it, is that you actually then be held accountable by other people to actually take action. If you just keep all your goals in your head, that's not going to help you. Figure out what you enjoy doing too. Like I said, it's so important that if you can kind of mix the two together, if you're going to be trying to generate multiple income streams in any capacity, whether it's full-time or part-time or, or just kind of on the side, it's got to be something that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're never going to be successful. It's the same thing as if you're in school, right? School started yesterday for a lot of students. The classes that they actually enjoy, they're going to do well in. The ones that they don't enjoy, it's going to be probably a bit more painful, or not going to get as good a grade. Same thing happens with creating multiple income streams. Don't do something that you know you're going to hate, right? I think that there's a huge opportunity just to make sure you're being really clear with yourself of what you're going to like, what you're not going to like. I hear it often when I'm talking with anybody from a real estate perspective. There are certain strategies that they love and there's certain ones that they don't want to do. Well, then don't do the ones that you don't want to do, or find a way to partner and fill the gap in with somebody else, maybe taking care of that aspect of it, or hire somebody to help in that part of the business if you already have a business going. You don't have to do everything. And if there's certain stuff you don't like to do, outsource it to somebody else, because somebody else might enjoy that. Also look at like, where can you get help? When I was 16 years old, I worked for Zellers, no longer exists, but I know it's coming back in some capacity. My boss at the time told me, Chris, you don't need to know all the answers. You just need to know where to get the answers, which said to me, you just need to be resourceful. No one expects you to know everything. No one expects me to know everything. And I will admit, and I know we've got the CashFlow Tribe team here in the background watching this. I'll admit, I don't know everything as CEO. I'm wrong quite often. Kara, if Kara's watching this from our team, she's called me out on some stuff where I'm wrong and incorrect. There is like, you do not have to think that you know it all. So to create multiple income streams, to tie it back to that, you just got to be resourceful, which means sometimes you just got to Google something or go onto YouTube and find the answer yourself, or go watch a course or something that we have with CashFlow Tribe to find that answer you're looking for. I was talking to somebody earlier today who's not part of our community, but they were saying they wanted to get into to real estate investing, and they're trying to figure out what the right strategy is for them. I said, well, have you watched some of these courses? And they said, well, no, I didn't really realize it was available. I said, well, just maybe just Google some stuff. You might be able to find the answer you're looking for to actually, achieve some of the goals that you're trying to go after. And as a result, he's got into it. He already messaged me and said, hey, I've already watched one of these courses. Like, this just completely changed my world. It was unbelievable. You just got to go out and find the answers. The other thing that's important is figure out, like, when do you actually need to achieve your goals, right? You have to have some sort of, time constraints put on yourself. If you have goals that are vague and they're not specific, well, you're going to have a hard time actually achieving them. So hold yourself accountable to achieving specific goals. So I'm going to do X by certain date. That is so important to make sure you just have that sense of accountability. So if you want to create a certain level of income for yourself, maybe I'll just use easy math because it's middle of the afternoon here on a Wednesday. If you want to create an additional, say, $100,000 for yourself in terms of income coming in, well, is that within a year? Is that within 2 years? Is that like per month? Like, putting some sort of actually time commitment on it is going to be important. It's going to push you in the right direction. You got to get specific. The last question here is like, how do you start building income streams? I get asked this question quite a bit. The more I start to reveal some of my story about how to build a side hustle or some personal brands, the advice that I give now to everybody is don't try to do it all at once. Don't try and split your attention. There's this old Chinese proverb that I remember reading saying that if you chase two rabbits, both will escape. That is 100% legit. Try to get one income stream locked in and dialed in before you move to the next. Build kind of a bit of a process around it so you can ultimately make sure you're really, really good with it before moving to something else. When I first started out, I was all over the place trying a lot of different, tactics and strategies. And like, I'm going to go for all these income streams right out of the gate. And I was a little bit effective in each. And then when I started to zero in, I got so much better. You don't have to do it all at once. Again, it's a slow build. I also think it's important, though, that we make sure that we're just aware of burnout and shiny objects, because people burn out easily when they're trying to generate additional income for themselves. They try to do too many things at once. Honestly, I've seen this a lot with people within the community, within CashFlow Tribe as well. They hear about a strategy for real estate investing, and then they think, well, maybe I'll do wholesaling. And then the next week, they're like, I'm just going to start doing flipping, or I'm going to, try and do private lending, or I'm going to do whatever the strategy is going to be, or short-term rentals, right? That's shiny object syndrome, because they're kind of the newest thing that pops in their head. They just bounce from thing to thing to thing. Master something, before starting to move on to it. And there's this old adage where it talks about if you're trying to master something, it's going to take 10,000 hours to get really good at it. Well, yes, that's true. It's going to take some time, but you can actually compress time by leveraging the right people, processes, tools, the community to help make that easier for yourself. But don't try to do too many things at once, because you're going to fail and you're going to burn out and you're not going to be successful And then you're going to be disappointed in yourself. You're going to be more stressed out. Like I said, I tried to do a lot of stuff early on. I tried to write books. I've got a lot of books that I started and stopped that I should probably just finish. I tried to do, podcast episodes and video editing and speeches and freelance work, all while trying to work full time before. And it just was really hard to try and juggle it all. So I was only partially effective. So I got really good in a few areas at a time before moving to something new. And it helped. Again, it's that slow build that I've referenced. Some people know that, poker is one of my passions that I absolutely love. And it's honestly one of my most successful side hustles, especially in the last couple of years. But it's a slow build approach when you're playing in a tournament, right? It's trying to ultimately just, chip away and grind away till you kind of get to the end result that you're looking for. The same thing happens in life and business. You got to chip away at it. Don't just expect that you can just, go all in on one hand in life and it's all going to work out. You're going to have to take some time with it. I've used the word fulfillment a lot. Additional income streams can help you find more financial freedom. It's going to give you more flexibility. Maybe you want to be on a beach somewhere and you want to have a specific income. That could be your sense of fulfillment. Whatever it is to you, you got to find what works for you. But more people are quitting their jobs than ever before, and they're unhappy with what they have. They want something more, but they don't know how to get it. I'm here to tell you that whatever you want in life, you can have it. It's just going to take some time. You have to just work for it. You have to put in the work. To do that, you're going to have to level up your knowledge. You're going to have to surround yourself with the right people. And you're ultimately going to have to take action. Now, you can uncover different strategies and tactics, and you can start to develop some of your core processes, and you can be around the right people, but it's going to take time to make sure that you actually get that fulfillment that you're looking for. And just know this. So if you're in real estate investing, talk to more people, make more offers, connect as much as possible, level up your knowledge as much as possible. It is so critical and so important. It's going to put you down a different path. It's going to ultimately make you way more successful overall, but it's not a solo game trying to create multiple sources of income. You don't have to do it alone. When you do it together, you can actually go faster. I'm getting kind of close to the end here. I got a couple more slides, but I just want to kind of share some of those final thoughts here. Is that, look, it's your life and you have to live it your way, but you can't rely on just one sole source of income because stuff happens, in life and things that you can't control. Jobs come and go. Companies will come and go. So the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. So you got to surround yourself with multiple sources of income streams. You have to take control of your life and achieve the goals that you want. But you got to do it in an intelligent way so it doesn't burn you out, doesn't stress you out, and doesn't really drive you into the ground. Look, if you want help, we are here to help here at CashFlow Tribe. We're here to assist. We've put on this free event to help and share more across the community. If you want to be part of this community, you want to help, we do have an opportunity to help you in a variety of different ways. If you're trying to build multiple income streams using real estate here at CashFlow Tribe, we can point you in the direction of various tools and programs and experts. We've got our premium membership, which has been rebranded as CashFlow Plus. With this annual membership, you're going to get the opportunity to learn more at your own pace. It has evolved in this program. We've now got real estate investing courses. We've got side hustle courses and business building courses. And we've got courses that are focused on how to develop a growth mindset and really in that personal development space. We're really excited to offer CashFlow Plus because now you've got the opportunity to have free access to the Level Up program if you've got an annual membership as well, which is a $500 value. And it provides more for you as you're moving forward with CashFlow Plus. And it's less than $1 per day if you're just going to try and do it monthly as well. Now, of course, we've got other programs that are designed to help you as well. As Kurt shared yesterday, we're really excited to kick off this accountability program that we've just launched, which is giving you the support to ultimately, over a 3-month period, get that next deal for you. For some of you, I know that next deal has felt a little elusive. It's been hard to go after. Well, with this program, you're going to meet twice a week with a small group of like-minded people, facilitated by somebody with CashFlow Tribe or one of our mentors, to help get the mentorship that you need to succeed. And so we have more information on that. And again, the accountability program, we're excited. The other option you have is we've got courses, and we've got our program called Foundations, which is, again, a 3-week virtual program to help give you the fundamentals that you need to know to set up real estate as a business, as a side hustle, or a source of income for yourself too. And of course, as you know, we've also got Council. Council has evolved and changed too. It is becoming more about business building and support, more about the mastermind experience that can come with it, and unlocking more services to help business owners take it and scale it to the next level. The thing at the end of the day is, I'm not trying to do this as a hard pitch. I'm just saying to say that we're here to help with CashFlow Tribe in any way that we possibly can to make additional incomes a reality for everybody. So I want to thank everyone, because I think we're coming close to the time here, for your time and attention this afternoon. If you're looking to connect and learn more about my journey, you can take a picture or scan the QR code. It's going to give you ability to connect with me or follow me on social media. But know this, is that ultimately you can achieve financial freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. You can live the life that you want, but don't leave your fate in the hands of other people. Control your own destiny. Go out there and build additional income streams so that you can live life on your terms. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. We will go through now, and I think Kurt will come back on here and take us away for the next one.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris. Hopefully everybody got a lot of value in that segment, talking about multiple streams of income, which is very important. Thank you very much, Jan. Again, for those of you that are looking to kind of take that next initial step, maybe you're completely new to real estate, completely new to CashFlow Tribe, definitely CashFlow Plus is a great place to start. The link is obviously there. I'll also throw up a QR code that you guys that are technology savvy, like Chris, can just take out your phones, click on the QR code, and you can go there. Again, your first 7 days is free. Tons of content, different streams of income, whether you're an entrepreneur, or solopreneur, or a real estate investor looking to start. And again, thank you very much, Chris. And before I introduce our next speaker for today, who is Catherine O'Neill, I do want to just share with everybody that Brad Blazer, who was our special guest speaker, unfortunately sent us an email this morning saying that he did have a family emergency that unfortunately led to him being in a hospital. And when he reached out to us, he said he'd be willing and able to come on from the hospital. But after speaking with Chris, we decided that one of our values obviously is family. And if anybody has ever gone through a family member or somebody close to them going through a tragic time, it's important to be there for them. So we told Brad, spend time with the family, take care of what you have to do personally. But we were able to bring on another guest speaker that will be on after Catherine. So you guys will get a lot of great value on creative finance and also raising capital. But before we do that, I'm just going to bring Catherine on here. And as I'm bringing Catherine on, I'll let her tell you more about herself. But Catherine was an employee for over 30 years. She does have several rental properties. And she discovered CashFlow Tribe in April, I think it was 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Excellent. And in October of 2020, she decided to become a member of Council. And she's married with 2 kids, also 2 cats. She loves to travel and develop creative solutions to help people grow their businesses. And one of the areas that Catherine is definitely going to share with you today is private lending. And so with that, Catherine, please go ahead, and I will upload your presentation and disappear.
And then I'm going to take it that I just click to be able to move it along. Well, we'll try that and we'll see what happens. Hello to everybody. Really glad to be able to be here, and welcome on this Wednesday afternoon. As I said, my name is Catherine O'Neill, and I'm just really happy to be able to be here. A little bit about myself. As Kurt had said, I was a 30-year employee, and I found myself one day sitting around my dining room table with my husband, Mike, because the dining room table is where we sit to be able to have our conversations and make big decisions. And I had one that I had to make. I had assumed that I would work for my company until I retired. But as you know, with all the various downsizings that occurs, that was not going to be the case. And they offered me an opportunity to be able to leave with a severance. And thought about it and thought about how the company had changed over time and diverted a little bit from where I was comfortable and what I wanted to achieve. And so Mike supported me, and I agreed that it was time for me to leave. We'd worked hard, paid off our house, had RSPs, had money in the bank, but still it was a bit of a surprise because I thought I would have another 10 years to be able to make money. I thought I would have another 10 years to be able to put money into our retirement savings. And importantly, I thought I would have another 10 years to have something to do because, work had really taken up all of my days. So, but with that in mind, I thought, well, we'll be okay, maybe a little less okay than I thought we were going to be, but what choice do I have? Because I had time, I found myself around another table with an old boss of mine in the summer, and we were catching up with things. She had retired, and she suddenly began to talk about her 5 investment properties, and I almost fell off my chair because I had no idea that regular people, and if anyone knows Southern Ontario, like she was a girl from Burlington. How could a girl from Burlington have investment properties? So I came to realize that while I was working hard, head down, looking after the family, doing, various things, putting money away in stocks or whatever, there was a whole gamut of stuff out there that I was unaware of, that I hadn't been engaging with. So this gave me the opportunity to think, okay, I want to look at this, did some work, did some research, found that I really liked the real estate side of things when I realized it was available to me, bought 3 rentals and figured I was going to buy, a bunch more. But around that time, I got exposed to private lending. I even went to a private lending information day, and honestly, didn't really catch my attention. There was a lot of focus on the borrowers and people borrowing, and I didn't need to borrow money. So I was thinking to myself, this doesn't apply to me. At about that time, CashFlow Tribe came into my life. And what was really helpful for me was they provided a personalized plan that was tailored to me and my assets and what my aspirations were. That hadn't happened before. And they shared how private lending was a strategy that they thought really would make sense for me. And sure enough, that is indeed the case. I have come to really, really appreciate that and use it to its fullest. So private lending, it's a strategy that could make you $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 a year, every year, by leveraging the assets that you have to their maximum. You don't sell any assets. You don't have to have another job. It is taking what you own and just getting more out of it. I think that's really cool. However, it took me over a year and a half of being in this business and learning about things and thousands of dollars of attending meetings and mentorships to really help me understand that the way to wealth is not through squeezing the bottom line, saving money, being frugal. That's important. But the way to wealth is really through growing your top line, getting more income, leveraging your assets to the fullest. And that's what I'm going to share with you now. So I'm going to cover 3 things. The typical real estate investor progression, because you may be thinking, how the heck does private lending fit in with real estate anyway? A couple of approaches to private lending, and finally, the power of private lending. Okay, so why are we talking about private lending when you expected this perhaps to be about real estate? Because real estate investing tends to follow a journey. So often at the beginning, when people are young, when they don't have money, they engage in, okay, that didn't work. All righty. And let me see if the builds work. They may not. Next slide. Well, we are going to pretend that we're going to, yeah. Kurt, I am surprised that the builds don't work. That's too bad. Yeah, that's the next slide. Well, you're going to pretend what's on the screen. I'm going to tell you what's there. So the first active strategy is often things like wholesaling, wholetailing, Airbnb that you heard about from Keith yesterday. And these strategies require very little money. They are short term. Results can happen in a month to 6 months. And the ROI is very good, often 20 to 40%. And you get a one-time infusion of cash. So you can do them over and over again, but there is a limit to how much you can do. People then, often having done those many times, move on to a more passive strategy. Strategies like buy and hold, BRRRR, which is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat, or rent to own. These strategies are defined as passive, but if anyone is an owner, it's not very passive. But they require more money for a down payment, money for renovations, and they're longer in their time frame to be able to get the investment income. Excuse me. So 5 years to 25 years. Small amount of cash flow per month, not much, but still something. The last strategy is the one that, if anyone saw TJ yesterday, excuse me, he didn't share at that point, but he's talked about how he would like to make $10 million and then privately lend at about 10% for $1 million a year. It's private lending. It's the most passive strategy. It is short term. You lend out for 3 to 6 months. It's the most capital intensive, which is why it's often the last one. You need $100,000, $1 million, $10 million. But also, as I said, it's most passive. Lend out the money, get it back, continue to repeat. And in the case of private lending, we're talking about private lending on mortgages, not private lending on people buying yachts or whatever, but an asset where you can see the return of your cash. So now that we've talked about how private lending fits in with the real estate journey, how can it be part of your toolkit? So here's an example. You might have your own money, like I do. And as part of private lending, you can lend out your own assets through a home equity line of credit, which is a Heloc, or maybe RSPs, TFSAs, LIRAs. You can borrow against any assets you own, like a stock portfolio. Maybe you've got inventory or cash. This is through a lawyer at a defined rate of interest. And in the example that we see below, what we see is, let's say you're going to, the cost of funds for you to be able to access your money, like within a Heloc, might be 4%. The amount of money that you're going to get having lent it out is 12%. And then the profit from that is 12 minus 4, or 8%. And so that 8% that you're getting is really free money. Yes, you had to be able to vet things, but that 8%, you haven't had to sell any asset. You haven't had to get a job. You are making 8%. So in the box below, you can see that if there was a mortgage for $100,000, the cost for the funds for the year to be able to access those through your Heloc or other way might be $4,000. The interest you've agreed to would be $12,000, and the profit is 12,000 minus 4, $8,000. That's private lending. It is taking an asset that you have and being able to get more money out of it. Another example, the power of private lending isn't just money that you own. It also could be money that you have access to. So maybe you don't have a house that you've paid off, or access to a stock portfolio, etc. But maybe your family does, or friends, or your community. So you could also act to be able to help your family, friends, and community make some interest passively and get a little bit on the side for you, kind of living in the spread of the spread, by being the person who brings to them the opportunity to be able to invest in private mortgages without the hassle of having to learn it themselves or the complexity of managing to work it out. So same example, cost of funds, 4%, the interest rate is 12%. But in this example, in the 8% of the profit, maybe 6% goes back to the people who lent the money, and then 2% or a fee goes to you. So, with our $100,000 mortgage example, the cost of funds is still $4,000. The interest is still $12,000. But in this case, the $8,000 is divided perhaps between people who have invested the money and you who have brought them the opportunity, and you are, helping them with the transaction, etc. All right. So to summarize, what we've talked about is predictable monthly supplementary income for your family. If you think about what would you do if you got some money for free, how might you help your family? Well, maybe you have aging parents and they want to stay at home. They do not want to go into long-term care at this point. So helping them with the accessibility supports, with personal support workers. Maybe you've got older children and you saved for an RESP, but my goodness, they want to go on and get a master's or a PhD. And you want to try and reduce their reliance on government support and the costs associated with that. Maybe you give them a loan or you give them a gift. Down payments that you might have on a vacation property for you and your family, or down payments if you live in Toronto or Vancouver, helping your kids with a down payment on a condo or something. A nice big family vacation, or in some cases, people who are well paid, but when it comes to, they're lucky enough to have a pension, but when it comes to get the pension, it's way less than what they were making. So money to be able to supplement a pension to keep the lifestyle that you had before. These are all things that that private lending can be used for, to be able to make life just a little bit better, all without selling any assets. It's not the same thing as a reverse mortgage. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. But again, this is leveraging assets, not selling assets, all without getting another job. There's no T4 income in here. As I said, the net is about 5 to 15%. Yes, there are people who make more. There are people who make 20 and then 30%. Usually when the reward gets higher, the risk also gets higher. So we're talking about very secure loans, first and second mortgages. Yeah, you're not going to be seeing the 20 and 30%. And the last benefit is you can lend, re-lend, re-lend, basically as long as you want. Do this for a couple of years to be able to make some supplementary income. Do this for a whole lot of years, because this is just a strategy you want to do. It's your call. It's your life. Especially, there could be the question, I listen to people and they go like, this is great, but I'll do it someday. I might suggest to you that someday should be this day. Why now? Well, inflation is running at 8%. And so we are all having our money clawed back, our savings clawed back. Mortgage rates have gone up 2 to 3%. And again, the cash flow that we were getting is clawed back, or the cash we're having to outlay is being clawed back. Especially if you're over 40, there is really an opportunity to be able to help you now, because you're probably sitting on assets that have appreciated because you worked so hard in your youth. It is an opportunity to be able to take advantage of that hard work then to be able to get benefit now. So whether you have your own personal funds or your own business funds, or whether you've got funds for your community, this is really an opportunity for you. So why is this here? Well, I'll tell you about my private lending. My passion that Kurt had told you is travel. Really, really like travel. And we've traveled modestly when the kids were little and as adults, and thought that that's how it was going to be. Again, what choice did I have? Well, with private lending, this has really opened up my ability to have a lifestyle that I wanted to have, but just didn't know how to be able to do so because I'm growing my top line. So in January and February in 2023, if any of you see me online or I'm presenting or whatever, you're going to see this as my screens. You're going to see this as my background, but it is not a screensaver. It's going to be my real background. I have rented a condominium for Mike and I for Florida for 2 months. We're going to try it out, see if we like it, see if that's the lifestyle we want to have. And you probably already know the answer. Did I have to cash in any savings? No, I did not. Did I have to sell any assets? No, I did not. Is this free money? Well, we all had to do a little bit of work, but yeah, basically this is free money. I am leveraging the equity that I have in my home to be able to make a spread, to be able to give me a lifestyle that I want to have, that this is where I choose to be able to spend that income. So with that, I wanted to thank everyone very much for their time and to let you know that there are a couple of opportunities. We're having a free webinar on September 15th at 7 p.m. and it's on private lending. How do you do it? Why do you do it? What are the ins and outs of things so that people understand things really well? Also, through CashFlow Tribe, we have a YouTube channel with a podcast called Fund and Flip. That's my business partner, Stacy, and I. And we'd be very happy if anyone would like to watch any episodes. If you got any questions, please pass them along. And please feel free to book a discovery call with me or sign up for the webinar. And that is my email right there, because our website is not yet up and working. This is a company that I formed with people from CashFlow Tribe. And so until that time, please use my personal email, but we would be very happy to hear from you, help out in any way we can, direct you to, whichever way would make sense, because I think I'm really jazzed about private lending. It's making a difference in my life. It can make a difference in the lives of a whole lot of Canadians. And I just want to get the word out because we're all sitting on more wealth than we realize. And that's it.
Catherine, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just wanted to know if anybody had any questions for Catherine when it comes to private lending. Or is anybody currently looking to private lend or has used private funds before for either a business venture or a real estate deal? That's awesome, Jan. Yeah, private lending is something I think that a lot of people kind of take for granted. They don't really think about utilizing that as part of their business strategy. They focus more on, more traditional real estate, actually acquiring the properties, doing flips, wholesale, income properties, etc. So it is a great tool to know. So Catherine,
well, I think, Kurt, to that point, when Chris was talking earlier today about multiple streams of income, when you have assets, sitting on a house, in Windsor, houses have appreciated tremendously. In Mississauga, they have appreciated tremendously. And even if you bought your house 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you're sitting on all this equity waiting for the day that you sell. And at that point, you will get money. But you know what? Your house could be making you money every day, including the day that you sell, if you would leverage the equity that you work so hard for to be able to pay down or pay off the mortgage and be able to do something with it. And there are lots of people out there who can help you. And I'd be happy to, send anybody in any direction. And CashFlow Tribe, I'm sure, would be very happy to also help you learn how to do things. So it really is an opportunity for a whole lot of Canadians. And as I've heard people say, why didn't we learn about this? Why haven't we been told about this? And it's like, yeah, exactly. Well, now you are.
Yeah, that is awesome. And there's some questions coming in here. I don't know if you have a couple minutes to answer a few of them. So one of them is, how do you find the party to lend to?
This is an excellent question. And frankly, it's one of the benefits of a community like this. So that's who I have been leveraging personally, and my business has been leveraging, is people you know, like, and trust. And so we're small and not a MIC or an insurance broker that wants to have all kinds of customers. So if you were going to be small, for example, loaning out your own personal money, just need to find a couple of people. Maybe this group, maybe there are people in your church, maybe there are, friends and family, whatever, but somebody, you need to be able to trust them. And then the other thing that I would add in is, I don't know if anyone has done any flipping or renovation for the first time. My first property that I really renovated was a 5-plex. And I will say I wasn't very good at the renovation. Renovations are gorgeous, but wow, did it take much, much longer than not ideal. And luckily I was using my own money. Oh, we've got a cat who has just decided to join us.
This is the joy of doing things live,
yes.
Is that,
Yeah, and I didn't lock the door, and I should have. Anyway, one of the things to consider, besides do you have a trusting relationship with that person, you think that they're going to do what they say, is how good are they at this business? All of us, the first, second, maybe even third time that we've done something, we get better and better and we learn. So one thought would be, assess the level of experience that people have, because the more experienced they are, the more likely they are to be able to deliver what they say when they say. Otherwise, there could be surprises and it could take way longer, as an example. So that is something to be able to consider.
Now, another question that popped up in here from Nicholas is, he's wondering how it works overseas. I'm not sure if you've had an experience either lending overseas or anything like that.
I sadly, I cannot speak to that. My focus has been in Canada, so that I will know the Canadian regulations associated with private lending. All the provinces, except for Quebec, are quite similar in how they handle things, both in just give me a sec, Kurt.
And while Catherine is figuring out the cat situation, no problem. No problem.
Maybe you can cut that out of the video. Anyway, so the Canadian provinces are very similar, and so gives you assurance that you know how to work with the lawyers and anyone else associated with things. Overseas, it could be quite different, and that would be very important that you are educated so that you don't run into problems, because these are big loans and it's important to protect your assets.
Okay. Another question. We're getting a few coming in here. So do you primarily loan to parties that aren't getting conventional financing as part of the process?
That is an excellent question. I had thought before that people who did not go to the bank were losers, and because I couldn't picture why anybody would not go to the bank. And then I listened to a couple up in Barrie explain how they choose not to go to the bank because they need the flexibility in their business as flippers to be able to have money at any point where they have a deal. And the minute they get a cash infusion from a sale, they want to put it to work. They don't want to have to sit on it, waiting that they'll get a deal some other time. And so realizing that this was a strategy that people were using, it wasn't because they couldn't go to the bank, they were choosing not to. And then also looking at the banks and realizing that they've gotten really good at, residential consumers. The person who buys a house has regular T4 income, regular money coming in, and they want to have the mortgage for 25 years. The minute you don't have T4 income, but maybe you're an entrepreneur, you don't fit their model. Maybe you only want to have the mortgage for 3 to 6 months. You don't fit their model. Maybe you want the mortgage for 1 year and 1 month because things have gone just a little bit long. Well, they want to send you up for another year. And then when there will be a penalty payment. So when I realized that it wasn't that people couldn't go to the bank, that they were choosing not to go to the bank, and they weren't losers, but they were just this became a cost of running their real estate business, then it was just a lot clearer to me as to why people would want private money. And the other thing, I think in the old days with banks, there used to be a relationship with the banker, so you could have a conversation. That really has disappeared in this day and age. COVID probably didn't help. And that is one thing with your lenders in private lending. There is that relationship, that conversation. So if things go long or if things are not working out, you can have a conversation, problem solve together, and work with creative solutions in a way that, being on hold for 3.5 hours with the bank, it's just not the same anymore.
Very true. Very true. And that kind of leads us to our next speaker, who I will introduce in a moment. But do have one more question that came up in the chat. You mentioned borrowing against your stock portfolio. How would you go about this?
So you would talk with whoever it is who has your stock portfolio. For example, ours is at Bank of Montreal. And you would ask them how that they would lend against that, because it's sort of owned or managed by your financial organization. And so they would be the one, I think, to be able to offer you the funds. And they would have some sort of stipulations, like you can't sell this because they're valuing the asset for a period of time. So you'd say, that's cool, long-term investment, not a problem. They would give you some loan to value, 50%, 40% of the value, 30%, because again, stocks are very volatile. They go up and down a lot, but they would give you something and then tell you what the interest rate is. And assuming that you were cool with that, then it's like any asset, which again, I was like, blow me away. I thought that the stocks were just, you had stocks and at age 71, you started to pull from them or whatever it was. To think like, I can make money on the money? No way. And I'll just throw out there, if you had like US dollar stocks, then you can also borrow money in US dollars because it's a US dollar stock. If you had, let's say, a portfolio with US dollars. So for the person who was like, gee, can we invest down in, overseas or the US or whatever? It's like, this might be a way of getting access to US money if you had US stocks and we're going to borrow against those.
Okay. And thank you very much for that, Catherine. That's very informative and very helpful. Do you have time for one last, that's 2-part question. Okay. So this comes from Tracy, who's joining us in Facebook Live. Do you keep extra funds you make or do you reinvest them? You're not sure if that's more towards you personally or just kind of your thoughts and opinions on that.
So it's your call. For me personally, I am using them because this is part of my strategy to be able to travel, or a lot of the examples I used, it was like using money, right? Help your parent, help your older children, fund something. So I've thought about using this as a third or fourth stream of income. But absolutely, you could keep it and you could reinvest it in some way. It really is up to the person in terms of what do they want to be able to run their lives and the lives of their family.
Okay, and one final question. Are there certain banks or institutions that you've found are better for somebody trying to get a home equity line of credit or a Heloc?
I can't really speak to that. If you have no mortgage, then you have the flexibility of talking to just about anybody. And more than just banks, there are all the financial institutions that would give mortgages, also give home equity lines of credit. So you could find the right one. But if you have an existing mortgage or an existing home equity line of credit already, then you're somewhat stuck with that financial institution, because no financial institution is going to loan you money when another one is ahead of them in the game if you default. So I happen to work with TD because most of my stuff is with TD. So I have a TD Heloc. I want to increase that Heloc because property values have gone up. I basically have to go to TD or shut down the Heloc entirely, pay it all back, and then start again. So when you start with a financial provider, you might be locked in somewhat for the rest of your life with that financial provider. So just be aware of that. The banks are they have so much money and so much business. They are not hungry in any way for your small amount of business. So they're not going to be fighting for you. You're going to have to do the due diligence and find the one that you want to work with.
Okay, awesome. And again, Catherine, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and sharing private lending with everybody. And I have provided the link to Fund and Flip, YouTube link just there, as well as your Instagram. So if anybody wants to reach out to Catherine and watch Fund and Flip, which is great, by the way, I've enjoyed watching the episodes that are out there, please do so. So Catherine, have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody here, and good luck with everything, Kurt. Talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Bye, Catherine. So everybody, before I bring on our next speaker, I do want to kind of mention again and kind of show you, sometimes when we have to do something new that's outside of our comfort zone, it makes it easier to actually see somebody doing it before you do. So I do want to share the video for those of you that are not following CashFlow Tribe on Instagram, of me going through what's holding me back and posting it to social media. So again, as you see on the little ticker symbol underneath, write out what is holding you back, and either take a picture or do what I did, do a video of it and post it to your social media. When you do, just make sure you tag CashFlow Tribe Canada, and we will get it. And looking forward to see what you guys or what's holding you guys back. And here's mine.
When?
So today is September 6th, 2022, and this is a list of things that are holding me back from living the life I want. First one is better time management due to overcommitting. I tend to overcommit to things, personal life, work life, business-wise, so it doesn't feel like I have enough time to get anything done that I should. Belief in my ability to be the person today that I see in the future. I'm comfortable. So that's something that definitely is holding me back. Self-doubt and thinking, what if it doesn't work? Next one, afraid to leap in 100%, and I'm stuck at about 50% of what I can actually do and be. And I don't have a strong enough why yet, so still trying to figure that out. So that is what's holding me back. And I hate fire, and there it is, by the way. So we have to remember safety first, people. You're playing with fire, make sure there's water nearby. But some of you guys know, and Chris knows this very well, that at the beginning of the year, I had a goal of speaking and sharing. 4 times was my goal for 2022. And I think in the first month since I committed myself to doing that, it's probably being close to 10, maybe more, whether it's in person or virtual. But I do want to make sure that you guys are taking that seriously. Sometimes it's hard to keep ourselves accountable to doing things, to following through. And that's one of the reasons I think, as Chris has mentioned, we've started a new program called the Accountability Program. And did share the link with you guys yesterday. I will share it at the end again for anybody that wants more information on it, to check it out on our website, and also to schedule a call with either myself or a member of the CashFlow Tribe team to talk about what your needs, what your goals are, and if the accountability program is something that is a fit for you. So I will do that at the end. But before we do that, as I mentioned before Catherine came on, unfortunately, Brad had a family emergency, and a good friend of mine and investor that I've known for a long time, Rob Lamotang, I reached out, and he said, absolutely, Kurt, I am there to help and support CashFlow Tribe and share, my knowledge, my wisdom on creative finance, on different sources of capital as well. So almost a last minute addition, but that is the type of gentleman Rob is. So I'm going to bring him on right now. How you doing, Rob? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, you're fine. Excellent.
Awesome. And again, thank you very much for stepping in and filling in for us. And for those of you that don't know Rob, he's a real estate investor located in Ottawa, Ontario. And he was a self-employed computer consultant and didn't have a pension. So the only way that he could actually retire was on his ability to save and his ability to invest. And everything was kind of going to plan until I think it was around the global meltdown, 2008, 2009, Rob?
Yep.
Where he had to figure out how to take that kind of goal or plan from freedom, 75 to freedom 55. So he had to create a new plan. And in 2009, he began his real estate career, taking classes and educational programs with Rich Dad Education, and kind of following that philosophy of buying, holding, and managing investment properties that provide cash flow, so he can build up enough cash flow equity over the years so he could actually achieve that goal of retirement. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rob. And again, thank you very much, Rob, for being with us. And I'm going to pull up your presentation and the stage will be yours.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction, Kurt. My name is Rob Lamotang, and I am a real estate investor. There we go. There's the slide thing. So quickly, because Kurt already talked a little bit about it, I'm a real estate investor, a trainer, and a mentor. I taught creative financing and income properties, buy, rent, and hold courses for another real estate education company between 2016 and 2020. And I've been a mentor for their students since 2014. Right now, I'm 61 years old. I've been married for 39 years. I got 3 kids, aged 28, 31, and 33, and 2 grandkids, aged 2 and 4. So as you can see, I'm nothing special. I'm just an ordinary person leading a pretty ordinary life and moving on. I started as a computer consultant, self-employed in 1993, and I actually retired in February 2020. But in 2008, when I was 47 years old, leading a very typical life and 8 years away from the Freedom 55, for those of you who go back to the 70s and 80s, you'll remember the Manulife program. Manulife put out a program, and that was their slogan. They were going to teach you how to retire at age 55. But in 2008, those of us who were around, we had a meltdown in the global markets. And the stock markets lost between 50 and 55% of their value within about a 9-month period. We lost about 60% of our savings at that time, and we were invested in all the safe stuff. We had a financial advisor, we had all mutual funds, and still we lost somewhere between 55 and 60% of our savings. Even gold, which in this particular time technically should have gone up. Gold lost 30% of its value in that same period, and it went from about $1,000 to about $700. So even though if you had done the right thing and hedged your portfolio with some gold, you still didn't make it. So my dream of Freedom 55 took a nosedive, and it was Freedom 75 if I was lucky. When I looked at how far back we had come, retirement just didn't seem like it was ever going to happen. I had also taken a similar hit in 2000 when we had the previous market meltdown. So I needed a new plan, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Then one day on the radio, I heard an infomercial that said, come to our free infomercial or our free evening session, and we'll teach you how to buy real estate with other people's money. And I looked at my wife and I said, well, I mean, what have I got to lose? And so I went to the seminar. And at that seminar, I heard enough that I was willing to pay the $500 to go for the exclusive weekend to learn how to buy real estate with other people's money. Well, when I got to that seminar, there was some good meat, and there was enough to entice me to start looking into this and start taking courses, because I felt that, yes, there was a strong possibility that I could actually do this. So I embarked on a learning plan, and I started taking courses in investment real estate, both in Canada and the US, property management, creative financing, income properties, rent to own, wholesale, Canada and the States, looking at asset protection, looking at estate planning, looking at joint ventures. So the latest one is actually self-storage. I started looking at self-storage during the pandemic in 2020. So that led me to start really seriously planning to do things. And in 2010, after taking the first 2 of my initial 4 courses, I set myself a goal that I'd buy 5 multifamily properties within 5 years. Now, Chris touched on this. He had pretty much the same message, but a different graphic. When you're setting goals, you want to make sure that your goal is specific. So I looked at it and I said, 5 multifamily properties. That's pretty specific. I mean, there's a quantity there, and there's what I'm going to buy. It has to be measurable. Well, yeah, it's measurable. I'm looking at 5 properties. It has to be attainable. Well, it's hard when you set a goal to know whether it's going to be attainable. We do our best in life when we set our goals to work towards them. But I thought that I could do that. If I could do 1 a year, I'd be doing okay. It had to be relevant. Well, my goal in doing this was to be able to retire and to be able to get back on track financially and with the life plan that I had. And it had to be time bound. So I said 5 years, and I said I wanted to do this in 5 years. And at the time, I was looking at a 10-year plan to get to retirement. Well, did I get there? Things kind of changed. Life evolves, and different opportunities presented themselves. So as I move forward through my goals and my activities, I started looking at different things. So I did a 15-unit building in Windsor. I've got 12 doors in Phoenix. I've got 1 door in Ecuador. I've done 9 rent-to-owns. I've done a flip. I've got 2 doors in Buffalo. I had 2 doors in Niagara Falls that I sold, and I wholesaled a 12-unit building in Windsor. So it's not exactly the same as I planned, but it still turned out to be really worthwhile. Oh, let's go back. So up here, my condos in Phoenix. There's the unit. There, the apartment building on the right of the screen that I wholesaled. There's my 15-unit building. There's my first rent to own. There's the hotel I'm invested in Buffalo, and there's the property in Ecuador. But as things evolved, I also started changing, and I also wanted to start cutting down on the amount of work that I had. I've got a saying that whoever determined that that rental property was passive income was never a landlord, because they obviously never understood the amount of work that was involved in being a landlord. So in 2020, I started the process of refinancing Phoenix. And in 2021, I started the process of selling Windsor. And with those 2 activities completed, what I did is, instead of buying back into individual properties, I bought into managed portfolios. So I took the proceeds from the refinancing and the sale, and I bought into a portfolio partnership of self-storage facilities in the US. We're looking to have, within a couple of years, we're looking to have 14 to 17 self-storage facilities that are managed for us. I bought into a portfolio of multifamily properties in the US. I bought into a partnership of short-term rental cottage resorts in Muskoka, and into a partnership of short-term rental cottages in Napanee. And now I no longer have to do all the work. So over time, I'm evolving, as Catherine talked about, into the more passive side of it, so that I have to do less and less work. Should also mention that with my RSPs and with my lines of credit, I actually do private lending as well, so that my RSP money, which can't be invested directly into real estate, is actually still in real estate, but through lending. And I do exactly what Catherine proposed. I actually use my Helocs and my lines of credit to do private lending. And the spread that you get on private lending is exactly what Catherine talked about. So all of the property that I've bought, I've used creative financing techniques. They have all been 100% financed, right down to the land transfer taxes and the costs to purchase the property and the legal costs. Everything has been 100% financed. And I did that using conventional mortgages, vendor takebacks, private loans, secured and unsecured lines of credit. I used a wholesale fee, joint ventures, and RSPs, as well as private lending. So when people tell you that this can't be done, and that you have to have 20, 30% skin in the game and things like that, it's just not true. You have the ability to go out there and get financing to do the things that you want to do. You just have to start thinking outside the box a little. So what is creative financing? Well, to understand creative financing, you have to understand conventional financing. And conventional financing is when you go to your bank or your stockbroker and you apply for a mortgage. And the mortgage brokers can go to the banks, and they're going to get you to fill out a bunch of forms and get you to provide a whole bunch of information. But essentially, you're looking at a conventional mortgage of about 80% loan to purchase price and having a 20% down payment. Now, the key there is 80% loan to purchase price, because when you buy a property, the bank or the lender will generally lend you, if they're a conventional lender, on the lower of 80% of the purchase price or 80% of the value. So if you buy a $500,000 place and the appraisal is 600,000, they'll still only lend you 80% of 500,000. If the place appraises at 400,000, well, they're not going to lend you on 500,000 anymore. They're going to lend you 80% of 400,000, and you got to find a way to come up with the difference. Now, if you do pay an insurance fee, okay, you can get smaller down payments, but understand that you're paying these insurance fees to CMHC, and when you pay them, that's getting added to your mortgage, and the cost of this insurance is fairly steep. So the key to creative financing is thinking outside the box. We have to be able to step outside of the normal realm and think like problem solvers, because that's what we are. We are problem solvers. We have to identify what the problem is that the seller is having, and every seller has a problem. They're selling their property for a reason. And it's our job to go out there and find a solution that will best meet the seller's needs while still meeting ours. And the solution may involve conventional financing, but invariably it is going to involve other people's money. And yes, you can get 100% financing and even more. In private lending, I have actually loaned more than 100% of the purchase price of a property if the right conditions are met. So we talk about other people's money, where we have friends and family, we have angel investors, joint venture partners, vendors. Vendors are a great source of extra money. We've got RSPs and TFSAs, we've got umbrella loans, we've got cash outs and refinancing. And that's just on the private side. On the institutional side, you can use credit cards, balance transfer cards. Balance transfer cards are one of my favorites. You use bridge loans, refinancing, conventional mortgages, umbrella loans. Just a quick note on balance transfer cards. If anybody does not have one, you should Google Best Balance Transfer Cards Canada. You can get a credit card. Well, they will allow you to transfer a balance from another card or just borrow from that card at very, very low interest, between 0 and 2% generally per year, on balances of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I know people who have $100,000, $120,000 in balance transfer cards, and they use them as down payments on houses. They use them to buy furniture. They use them to pay contractors, and then they're able to bridge that to the end of a project and then pay the card back at the end. So definitely worth looking into. So let's talk a bit about other people's money. No matter what, you always ask, because if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And that's a motto of mine that came out of when I took creative financing from my mentor back in 2010. He said, if you don't ask, nobody knows what you want. So you have to make sure to ask, because if you don't, the answer is always no. So as investors, we always want to be on the lookout for money. We want to talk about what we do. We want to network. We want to develop an an elevator speech. People have to know what you're doing. I know that people talk about social media as being the devil, and social media is horrible. But I use social media as a way to raise money. I use social media as a way for people to get to know who I am, for people to understand what I do. And using social media, I have found uh, uh, investors to do rent to owns. I've gotten private loans. I even sold a property where somebody came to me and knowing I had a property, gave me an unsolicited offer. So if you use social media right, it can be a very valuable tool as part of your networking. Back when I started out, I took a course with somebody by the name of Pip Stellick, and Pip was a stand-up comedian. Um, he was doing real estate, but his former career was a stand-up comedian. And every time he was at the front of the room, it was a show. And he told everybody in the room, he says, my elevator speech is simple. He said, all I say is, hi, my name's Pip. I help people get better returns on their money. And he says, if you're smart, he says, that will be the start of your elevator speech. He says, it's simple. I have no copyright on it. And now when people ask me what I do, and ever since 2010, I just introduce myself. And when they ask what I do, I say, I help people get better returns on their money. That will usually lead into a couple of questions about what that means. And very quickly, you'll go into a 1 or 2 minute conversation with the person. And you'll talk about what it is you do if you're doing rent to own, how you're helping people who can't get into the housing market get into the housing market, and helping people who've damaged their credit, give them time to repair it, and talking about things like that. And after about a couple minutes, you'll pull back and you'll say, this is great. I'd like to follow up this conversation with you, but this isn't a great place to do it. Here's my business card. Um, Give me a call next week and we'll set up a time to go to lunch and we can talk about it some more. Now, the beauty of that is you've now gotten somebody who is a potential investor, and you're going to get an hour of their time just sitting down alone with them in a restaurant. And yes, you're buying lunch. But other areas to network, real estate investment groups, REIN, OREO, all of those are awesome. Meetup groups. Don't focus just on real estate. Um, go to other activities that interest you. If you're a jogger, if you're a biker, if you're a dog walker, there are meetup groups for people who do these things. If you play board games, if you play Wordle, there are meetup groups for that stuff. So find where these people meet and go and join those groups, and then just start talking about what you do. Other sources, your doctor, your chiropractor, your dentist, your lawyer, your mortgage broker. These are all professionals who are going to help you in your real estate business. And as they start seeing you doing things, sorry, I guess the chiropractor and the dentist won't, but the lawyer and mortgage broker will. As you sit down at your doctor's appointment, your doctor asks you, how it's going. Talk to them. Let them know what you're doing. Let them know that you're enjoying it. Let them know that things are going well. Your mortgage broker and your lawyer, they're going to see what you're doing. And these people are people who have money generally. Parties and social activities. Again, bring your business cards. Always carry your business cards so that you can hand them out, and make sure your business card has good, clear contact information for you. Be prepared to answer the questions that typical investors are going to ask. Any investor who has any experience at all is going to have some questions. And the questions are going to be, how much are you looking for? You know, do you have an investment that's on the radar right now? What is it? Uh, And how much are you looking for? How long do you want the money? Serious investors plan the horizons on when the money is going to be available and when they have to make sure that they get it back or have it available again. What is the expected return on investment? They want to know details of the investment, including the exit strategy. Exit strategy is one of the key things that investors want to know. They want to know this is a 3-year investment, it's a 5-year investment. I'm funding a flip that's going to be done in 6 months, and you want flexibility to go to a year. They want to know what the risks are. Okay. Um, is there a risk of tenants not paying? Is there a risk of going over budget on renovations? Is there a risk on taking too long and blowing our time frame? Do we have additional closing costs? They want to know the rewards, and rewards are not just necessarily monetary. Um, one of the easiest investments that I have to sell is rent to own, because it does have a fixed period of time. It does have a reasonably small investment, but people like the feeling of helping. And when they realize that they're buying a house that the tenant is going to buy back from us in 3 years, if all goes well, that the tenant couldn't get into the house otherwise. The deal fell through because they didn't get their financing, and the real estate agents lost their commission. The mortgage broker isn't getting the mortgage. They like the fact that this is an investment which helps other people. And of course, they want to know the details on you and the others involved. If you have multiple JV partners, you have multiple partners in an investment. Um, all of the investors need to know who is involved in the activity. But just a warning, and this is bold in capitals, very, very, very important. Be very careful how you present NOI. Your return, your ROI, your return on investment is something that you cannot guarantee. We do not have a securities license, and you can get into a lot of trouble if you start advertising rates of return. So always talk about your rates of return in more of a generality. Have a spreadsheet and say, if everything goes well and this is what happens and this is what happens, and we can expect the high end of the return to be somewhere about here. If we have some bad things happen, we can expect the low end to be about here. Here's how we're going to mitigate the risks against the low end. But you also want to know information from your investor. It's really important that as part of your conversation with them, that you can actually get some information that's important to you. Like, how much money do they have available? If you initially have an investment that requires $50,000 or $100,000 and they say they've got 200, well, you just might plan them for a different investment. How long before the investor needs it back? This is important because you don't want to go into an investment where there's a possibility of the investment going longer. If the investor says, I absolutely deadline need this, my kid's starting university in September and I need the money by August. So you want to make sure that you're in a position that you know when they need it back. Is it liquid? Very important. It's useless for an investor to be worth $5 million if he has no access to the money. If all of the money is committed and already out, and he's not going to have access to any liquid assets for another year. So that's the point at which you talk to him about a plan for a year from now, and you mark down in your daytimer that you're going to get back in touch with them. You want to know what their experience level is in dealing with private investments. Most people have not dealt with private investments. It's only once you get into serious investors that you start to see that they've done private work. So you want to find out what their experience is, because you're going to need to know what level of handholding they're going to need. Somebody who it's their first private investment is going to need a lot more handholding than somebody who has done it 10, 15, 20, 30 times. I like the story that I was told not that long ago from somebody who said, you ask somebody for $5,000 or $10,000, and you're going to have to spend way more time with them than the person that you're asking $100,000 from, because the person you're asking $100,000 from has enough experience that they're going to understand what the process is about. And you want to know what they expect in the way of an ROI. Because if they come to you and they have unrealistic expectations, and let's say they want 30, 40, 50% a year, and you know right off the bat that the best you're going to be able to do is somewhere between 20 and 30, well, they're not going to be a fit for that particular investment. But most investors that I've talked to are usually reasonable and are looking for somewhere in the 10 to 15% per year investment range. The top end of the investors that I've talked to looking to do joint ventures are looking in the 20% range. So you have a good opportunity in that 10 to 20% range to find people with money who understand what they're doing and who are happy to invest the money with you and let you do the work. So as an example, we'll talk about other people's money, and I got to lean forward with my eyes to read this. Okay, I want to show you the power of other people's money. Here we're going to look at buying a property for $100,000. We have $100,000 and we're going to buy it cash. We're not going to get any loans on it. So the gross income on that property is $20,000. Our operating expenses are $8,000 for an expense margin of 40%. Our NOI is $12,000 or income minus expenses, and our cap rate is 12%. We get no financing. So no money from the bank, no money from the vendor, no money from anybody. We have no debt service. Our cash flow on that is $12,000. We are getting $12,000 net operating income with no other expenses. So our cash on cash return is 12%. Okay. If we value that at a 10% cap rate, okay, that means just using 10% is a nice, easy round number. That means that our property is valued at 120. And I have $120,000 in equity because I owe no money on that property. So how many deals can I do if I do the money all myself? Well, I can do one deal. I've got $100,000. I did a $100,000 deal, and my total cash flow is $12,000. Let's look at example 2, where we do a conventional kind of financing. We get 75% from the bank, 25% that we put in ourselves as a down payment. Same numbers, same $20,000 income, same $8,000 expenses, same operating income, same cap rate, everything exactly the same, except we now have $4,800 a year that we have to pay to the bank as interest on the $75,000. That's a 5% loan at 30% amortization. So that means our cash flow is now down to $71.97. So our cash on cash return is 28.8%. So just looking at that leverage, we have gone from a return on our investment of 12% to 29%. The value of the property is the same, but our equity is only $45,000. And the reason for that is the value of the property and how much we actually have on it. So our equity at $45,000. But if we take a look, based on that, okay, if we had to put only $25,000 down, that means we can do 4 of these deals. So our total cash flow would be $28.7. Going a little further, maybe we get the vendor to give us a small mortgage. So here we've got the same $75,000. The vendor's giving us $15,000. We're only putting in $10,000. Same property, $20,000 income, $8,000 expenses, 12%, $12,000 operating income, same cap rate. Now our expenses are higher. Our debt service is higher because we still have the same $4,800 to give the bank, but we've also got $1,036 that we got to give the vendor because he's given us a 7% interest only loan on that $15,000. Our cash flow is now down to $61.61. But look at our cash on cash return. Our cash on cash return is up to almost 62% because we've only put in $10,000 to earn that $6,100. We have the same value of the property and our equity has dropped. But we can now do 10 of these deals because we only had to put $10,000 of our own money into it. And our total cash flow is $61,000. Now let's look at the extreme where we have one lender giving us 75%. We got another lender giving us 25%. It's the same house, but we're 100% financed. $8,000 in expenses. Net operating income is still 12,000. We have higher debt service ratio. Our debt service ratio is 48 debt service costs are 4,800 from the bank, 1,700 from our lender. So out of our $12,000, we're paying 6,500 in service costs, which means that our cash flow is only 5,470. The difference is we have none of our own money in this. Our return is infinite, and there is nothing stopping us from doing as many of these deals as we want. That is the power of leverage. That is the power of other people's money. So again, I say, you shall ask always. Because if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And you never know what somebody will do. Creative financing strategies. So let's talk a little bit about creative financing strategies, and then we'll talk about some actual deals and actual transactions that I've done, so that you can see how the mechanics of it works. Okay, can I get rid of that? Okay, back. Okay, you are going to hear all kinds of things when you tell people about 100% financing strategies, and you talk about getting cash back, and you talk about different strategies like that. They're going to tell you you can't do that. They're going to tell you it's illegal. They're going to tell you it's mortgage fraud. None of that is true, because they don't know what they don't know. A big part of life is the learning process, and the light goes on all the time where all of a sudden you see, gee, I didn't know that. Because there's a vast universe out there of things we don't know, and only a tiny fraction of it we don't know. We know that we don't know. The rest of it is all stuff that we don't know yet, because we don't know anything about it. So when somebody tells you something and talks to you about something, it's worth taking the time to learning about it a little bit if you don't know about it already, because chances are you don't know what you don't know. Most people ask for permission. When a kid asks their mother to do something, can I do this? Can I do that? But that's the wrong question. The question should not be, can I? What we really have to be thinking about is, how can I? We have to change our mindset. The mindset of can I is a totally different framework from how can I. In one case, you're already thinking about the defeat. In the other, you're thinking about how are you going to make this successful? How can I take this and make it a reality? Because whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. That's a very, very famous quote from Henry Ford, a very successful businessman. And it's true. If you start out with the attitude that you think you can't, you're not going to put in the effort that you need to make it happen. But if you start out with the attitude of, how can I? And you think you can, you're going to do much better and work much harder to make it come true and to make it a reality. And so when you're looking at things, always think about how can I, and that you can do it. So I'm going to tell you a true story about a vendor take back that I did. This is a story that has a little bit of a different twist to it. I saw an ad for a set of properties for sale in Phoenix. It was 12 condos in a 43 unit complex, and they were asking $600,000. Well, that seemed interesting. When I saw the ad, I said, this might be something I want to come back to. And I went on to the MLS listing. Now, the nice thing about MLS in the States, and about anything in the States, is the access to information. On an MLS listing, they will have actual tax bills, actual receipts for things done. There's so much more information that is readily available when you're investigating U.S. properties. So anytime I look at a property, if it looks halfway interesting, I download all those documents and I store them on a folder on my hard drive. And so I was watching this property as one of the properties that I was watching every once in a while, and all of a sudden it dropped off the MLS. So I sent a note to my real estate agent, and I said, "Gee, did it sell?" And he came back and he said, "No." He said the listing just expired and he decided not to renew. And so I took the time and I went back through all my stuff. All the stuff was no longer on the internet in the US because the listing had expired, but I had all the information on the property. So I was looking at it, 12 units, $600,000, $50,000 a door. Maybe I want to find out a little bit more. So I went to all my information and I actually had an HVAC service receipt with the owner's name and phone number on it. So I figured, what the heck? Give him a call. So I call him up and we get into a conversation and I ask him, why are you selling? And he said, well, he says, I'm sick. Um, I'm not doing well. I've got cancer. He said, and I can't look after the properties the way I used to because I can't travel to Phoenix anymore. He lived in California. And I said, how about you send me your actual income and expenses for the last year, and I'll take a look at it. And I said, if I like it, I'll give you an offer. And my offer will be based on a 10% cap rate of actual income and expenses. And he said, sure, why not? And he sent them to me. So I ran over the numbers. Oh, there's some pictures of the property. Nice looking property, well maintained. And so I sent him an original offer of $475 for the 12 units, which was based on a 10% cap rate of the actual income and expenses. And he didn't negotiate. He accepted it right away. And I kind of was a little surprised, but I was happy. So in the offer, I asked him to send me a whole bunch of stuff, but why would he accept it? Well, he already tried to sell the property. He didn't get 600,000. It had been listed for 3 months and there was no sale. He was sick. He was in California and he couldn't travel anymore. So 475 seemed like a reasonable deal. And so he turned around and he sent me all the due diligence material, actual receipts for income and expenses, actual tax bills, actual electricity, HOA, all the things that I would expect. He sent me the info on the condo corporation, all the rules and regulations. He sent me status certificate on the condo to make sure that the reserve fund was in good shape. But a funny thing happened. During the due diligence, I found out some things that he wasn't aware of. I found out that his property manager was stealing from him. I found out that income minus expenses didn't equal the bank deposit. I found out that the promise of full occupancy wasn't. I found out that the property was actually 50% vacant for the previous 24 months. And the income and expenses that I had were 2 years old. But because he wasn't able to look at the property, look after the property, he was not aware of how bad things were. He was just looking after taking the deposits. So when I got all the information from the actual property manager and I started to realize what was actually going on, this was bad news. So we could have walked away, but we didn't. So I got back in touch with him and I explained everything to him. I explained what his income and expenses actually were. I told him that based on my numbers, he was losing $30,000 a year, and he acknowledged that. He said, I don't know where the money's going. He says, but it's not getting in my bank account. And I said, you're losing $30,000 a year. And I said, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to offer you an offer of still a 10 cap, but based on the actual income and expenses, except that I'll give you credit for only 30% vacancy. And he said, okay. And I said, like right now you're at 50% vacancy, so this is a pretty good offer. And I discussed with him that no one was going to finance me or anybody else to buy this property in its current state. that it was going to take a while to actually get the vacancy fixed, and it was going to take a while to get a new property manager, and it was going to get a while to actually fix the income and expenses. And so I told him that I needed some help with the financing. And he came back and he says, but I can't do that. And I said, why not? And he says, because I need money. I said, what do you need money for? He says, I get medical bills. I said, okay, are your medical bills, do you need that money right now? And he says, I need some of it. I said, okay, so tell me what you need. He said, I need $30,000 now. I need $20,000 now, and I need $30,000 in 5 months to pay my next set of treatments. And I said, so if I can figure this out so that I get you your $50,000, 20 now, 30 in 5 months, I said, you'd be willing to finance the rest. And he said, yes. And he says, if you can get me the $50,000, he says, I'm more than happy to do the rest. And I said, okay. And I said, here's what I'll do. What I will do is I will pay you back the other 220 with 100% of the positive cash flow based on the 30% vacancy and the 10% cap rate. And I said, what that means is that it's my job until I get the vacancy down below 30%. I said, I'm going to lose money on that. I said, because I'm having to cover a shortfall, because right now you got 50%. And I said, I'm willing to do that because I think I can do this in the 5 months and I don't have to give you any money for 5 months. And he said, okay. He said, I think we can do that. So that worked out that I would pay him $1,000 a month. And I would do that for 220 months. So what I sorted out with him was a vendor take back where he was financing 93% of the value of the sale price at 0% interest. And I was giving him $30,000 in 5 months and $1,000 a month for 18 years. And he said yes. And again, the question is why? I solved his problems. I solved every one of his problems. He didn't have to look after the property anymore. He wasn't losing $30,000 a year anymore. And he needed $50,000 for his medical bills, and I was getting him that. I took the time to find out what he needed. And I made sure that the deal that we sorted out was something that would meet what he needed. So the total price was $270,000 or $22,500 a door, was 100% financed, $220,000 from the vendor at 0% for 18 years, 4 months, or $1,000 a month, $30,000 vendor financing at 0% for 5 months, $20,000 on my line of credit. And the first mortgage payment wasn't due to the vendor for 5 months. And I refinanced another property so that I could pull $30,000 in equity out of another property to be able to pay him back his $30,000 within the 5 months. The current value, this is 10 years later, the current value of the 1 bedrooms is $135,000. The current value of the 2 bedrooms is $160,000. So my $270,000 investment has turned into $1.695 million in 10 years. Last year in 2021, I refinanced the property and I pulled out $870,000 that I then used to buy into an investment in a portfolio of managed self-storage facilities. So again, the self-storage facilities are 100% financed with a loan from the equity of the 12 condos. So when people talk about 100% financing, it is possible. There's 2 examples there of 100% financing on 2 different properties. So you shall always ask. If you don't, the answer is always no. If you don't take the time to talk to your vendor, to find out what their issues are, to find out what their problem is, and to work out a creative solution, it's to your detriment. But then a funny thing happened. A funny thing that was not so funny at the time. It was kind of strange. I went to my wife and I said, okay, we just bought 12 condos in Phoenix, $22,500 a door. Which one are we going to retire in? And she looked at me and square in the face and she says, I'm not going to Phoenix. There's no water there. I looked at her and I said, I know that, but I mean, it's nice. It's warm. We can escape the Canadian winter. She says, doesn't matter. I'm not going there. And I said, so what do you want me to do about that? She says, I don't know, that's your problem. So I told her to go away for 3 months and let me look into different things. And I started investigating. I said, you don't want to go to Florida or the East Coast of the US because you say it's too cold in January and February when you want to be there. We can't afford Texas, can't afford California. I said, like, I'm going to have to go south of that. She says, well, do what you think. So I started investigating the Caribbean and South America, and 5 places kept coming to the top: Panama, Honduras, Ecuador, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. And after extensive research, we decided that we wanted to do Ecuador. Except when I got down to Ecuador, and when I actually spoke to people in Ecuador, all of a sudden now, to get the condo she wanted, I needed another 85,000 US, and I didn't have another 85,000 US. So how was I going to do this? More on that a little later. Joint ventures. Joint ventures is another really, really great way to sort out getting financing when you're starting out, and even when you're not starting out. I use joint ventures all the time. When you're looking for money and looking for high financing. So a joint venture is just a business relationship. It's between individuals or entities where each has a clearly defined role and responsibility, and you're working towards a common interest. Very typically, real estate is lend itself to joint ventures because different people bring different skills to the table. Some people bring money, some people bring credit, some people bring management or construction skills, renovation skills. And it really is a case where if you can sort out a joint venture, the whole is really bigger than the sum of the parts, because any one individual in the venture would not have been able to pull it off. The skills of all the people are needed. And the key is to have an agreement between the venture partners, which clearly lays out the roles and responsibilities. Who is doing what? Who is responsible for what? And very importantly, you have to have your divorce agreement in place. Partnerships, ventures don't always go well. And one of the key things that lands agreements in court is when, yes, you planned this great thing. If everything worked well, everything worked great. But what happens if something didn't? Then you get into lawsuits, and you can avoid that altogether. So make sure that once you have your roles and responsibilities laid out, that you go see the right professional who will wrap your roles and responsibilities and your basic agreement into a proper template for a joint venture, which will include what happens if things don't go well, what happens if somebody dies, what happens if somebody goes bankrupt while the joint venture is happening. So these are all things that will be covered as part of your agreement, wrapped around the roles and responsibilities. So this joint venture that I did, I put a 12-unit apartment building in Windsor under contract, and I assigned it to a client, agreeing to teach them the due diligence process and introducing them to their power team. So I put in a 12-unit building, 8 2-bedrooms, 4 1-bedrooms, 404,500, a cap rate of 10.9%, and a gross rent multiple of 4.68. So for those who don't understand the numbers, okay, your cap rate is your net operating income, which is your income less your expenses divided by the purchase price. So if you don't know that off heart right now, you can write it down as I'm talking. It's income minus expenses divided by purchase price before debt service. GRM is the gross rent multiple, and what it is, it's the number of times that the gross rent goes into the purchase price. So take your purchase price and divide it by your rent. So typically when you're looking at cap rate, properties will start to cash flow at a 5% interest rate. Properties will start to cash flow at about a 7% cap rate. And at a 7% interest rate, properties will start to cash flow at about 8%. Okay, assuming conventional financing. When you're looking at your GRM, properties will start to cash flow when your GRM is 7. And the lower you go, the better it is, because it means your rent is high relative to your purchase price. So your GRM starts to potentially cash flow at 7, starts to look good at 6. A GRM under 5 is like really good. So this is the building I put under contract for $404,500. And the process took 3 months after the offer was accepted. Going through the due diligence, going through the whole process. And in the process, I set him up to do real estate in a new market because he wasn't in Windsor at the time. So he now had a real estate agent, a building inspector, an appraiser, a mortgage broker, a property manager, a lawyer. He had everything in place for him to go and do another building if he wanted to. But either way, he still closed on a 12-unit building for $404,000. And he was quite pleased with that. And I did it all for free. Did I do it out of the goodness of my heart? Well, I wanted to help him, yes. But what was I looking for? I solved a problem he had. He wanted a multi-unit building. What did I need? I needed $85,000. So instead of asking for an assignment fee, I asked him for a loan to finance something else. So he loaned me $85,000 at 5% for 7 years to buy a property that was 100% financed. And the taxes on this property were under $100 a year. And the condo fees were under $100 a month. And that's how I managed to put Ecuador on the map for us. And so my wife was thrilled with that. But that's what I mean when I start talking about thinking creatively, thinking outside the box, thinking of how you can do things. There was no way I was coming up with $85,000. I need to find someone else who had $85,000 and was willing to lend me that money. And even at this, the person who loaned me the money, he didn't have $85,000. He had a line of credit on which he loaned me $85,000. So he actually borrowed from his line of credit to lend me the $85,000 to do this. So again, it's thinking outside the box. It's thinking about how you're going to get something done. Not can I do it? It's how can I do it? So you can see there, building is there. Nicest property I've ever owned. Granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, right on the ocean, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,250 square feet plus 250 feet of balcony. And that's where we winter. How did I find this guy? Believe it or not, he was talking around the coffee machine at work about his single family home, about his single family home rental. And he said he wanted to do a multifamily, but he didn't know how. So I turned around and I bought him a proposal and a deal. And the interesting thing is, this wasn't the first deal I brought him. I originally brought him a deal for 2 sixplexes that we were going to joint venture on, and he would own one and I would own the other. Again, he would finance it and I would manage it. But that fell through because we couldn't get agreement on the price with the owners. So when that fell through and all of a sudden I had another opportunity, I was really quick to go to him and say, hey, are you interested in doing this one? And the opportunity to get a 12-unit building for $404,000 really enticed him. So again, you shall ask. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Okay, another joint venture. This was the first RTO that I did. It was a nice single-family home, a bungalow on 5 acres of land. Nice looking place. Nice out in the country. Everything was in good shape. And so I found a tenant and I found a house. Now I went looking for an investor. And in summary, really key, my venture partner provided the cash and the credit. He came in with the full mortgage and 20% down, as well as all the closing costs. We provided the expertise to pull the deal together. We provided the tenant buyer, the manager, the investor. We managed the deal in the process, providing our investor with a hassle-free. We got half the profits, and our investor was happy to do it because we were providing them with a good return. In the end, and I can say this because this was an actual return, he ended up making 17% per year on his money for 3 years out of this deal because we had our numbers and we knew them right, and the tenant bought the house. So we had no money out of our pocket. We had a win-win-win-win-win deal. The real estate agent, the mortgage broker, the investor, the tenant, and us. Everybody did well out of this deal. And that's why people like rent to own, because it's something where it's a feel good investment with good numbers, and in the end, you can easily get 100% financing for it. And how did I find this investor? Well, he found an ad I placed on Kijiji that pointed him to my website. He went to my website, looked at the details of the rent to own, and gave me a call. So that was that simple. He found me, I didn't find him. And then we went through the interview process. Again, you shall ask always. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. That's the end for me for today, folks. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for spending your time. I hope this was valuable to you in terms of thinking a little bit outside the box.
And thank you very much, Rob, for again jumping in and, as always, giving an amazing value to the CashFlow Tribe community. I will put up your Facebook contact at the bottom. So if anybody wants to reach out to Rob, his Facebook contact information is there at the bottom. Make sure you follow him as well. Rob is very active in the CashFlow Tribe community, answering questions and providing, a lot of wisdom to those that are seeking it. So again, Rob, thank you very much for stepping in again this afternoon. And looks like you're not at the cottage or in Ecuador right now.
My pleasure. No, I'm at home. I'm at my condo in Ottawa.
Okay. So I'm sure that you'll be off to Ecuador in a couple months as the weather starts to turn.
Supposed to be January to April.
Excellent. Well, look forward to having you on the next time, and have a great afternoon.
Take care, guys.
All right, everybody. So before we wrap up again, as I mentioned earlier, I do want to provide you guys with a little bit more support. Well, not just myself, but CashFlow Tribe as well. So although you can't see my face right now, but that QR code there will actually link you to our accountability program. Again, it is available to people that really need kind of support. And we do this in small groups where you have the ability to share what you're working on, where your challenges, struggles are within your business. And you'll actually be coached by one of the CashFlow Tribe mentors. So you'll be given homework to do on a regular basis to help you move your business forward. Sometimes it's difficult to move forward when you're on your own, when you don't have somebody that maybe supports you, that pushes you, that challenges you to get the most out of yourself. So that's why we developed this program. Obviously, we have several other programs available to people. We will kind of share those as we move forward throughout tomorrow, but that definitely is a great place, I think, where most of you guys can start. Now, as we wrap up for today, again, I want to thank you all for staying on. We went a little bit longer than scheduled. Hopefully you guys got a lot of value in today's session. We will be sending it a link to the recording for today, and we will begin tomorrow promptly at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for those of you that are in a situation where you don't believe you can get into real estate investing or start your business or grow your business because you're either lacking in capital, credit challenges, or credit issues, we'll be talking about how to get into real estate with no credit, no capital, or no money tomorrow with a few council members. And then we'll also be transitioning into finding and flipping your way to profit with another council member and mentor. And we'll be wrapping up the day with the most important part. How do you take everything that you've learned over these past 3 days and actually create an action plan for yourself? Again, CashFlow Tribe is here to support you. And that's our goal, is to help people that are either starting in a place where they want to begin investing and start that journey, or they're partway through. They've done a couple deals, but they can't get to that next one, and help you kind of overcome what is stopping you, preventing you, and provide you the guidance, support, education, mentorship, and accountability that you need on your real estate journey. So with that, again, thank you, everybody. Homework for tonight, very simple. I want you guys to actually list sources of capital that you have available to you to move your business forward, whether that's to start your business, to grow your business. one thing as investors, if we find an opportunity or a deal that comes across the table, we don't want to be in a situation where we're scrambling to find where are we getting the money for the deposit, where are we getting the money for the down payment. So it's important that we understand where our sources of capital are coming from. As Catherine talked about, a lot of people aren't leveraging, what they think they have or what they know they have as far as in their stock portfolios and home equity. It might even be sources of credit. It might be family members or friends that want to become, business partners or joint venture partners, as Rob also mentioned. So list out your sources of capital. Know where their money is coming from. So when that next deal or opportunity is presented, that that you're able to tackle it and you're not scrambling trying to figure things out. The worst thing that we can do, again, is have a great deal and not have a way to close it because we don't know where the money's coming from. So figure out the money first. Deals will come. Again, make sure you submit that homework to events@cashflowtribe.com. We will be doing another giveaway and announcing the winner tomorrow. So make sure you get those in before 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That way we have a chance to review and then select the winner for today's challenge. So with that, everybody, really looking forward to seeing you guys online tomorrow. Take care and enjoy the rest of your evening.